Trying to boost my subscribers, I'm trying to maintain the vision. People that know me closest live different than what they show me. It's hard to feel like they know me when I'm just scrolling through images. Truth be told, I feel pain, but I'm on the pinnacle. Been chasing this music thing for a minute though. Know some good people that never see success. And here I am sitting worried about show appearances.
Hello everyone, I'm Angeline and she's Resa, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 118 of With the Quickness.
Hello everyone, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday indeed. Today, we're going to share our takeaways from the October 30th, 2022 sermons given at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey, and a past sermon given at Progressive Union Missionary Baptist Church, which is located in Huntsville, Alabama. So, Resa, what was your big takeaway from First Baptist today?
To treat yourself with compassion. You should be dating yourself, and you should also give yourself affirmational messages.
Okay. My big takeaway is rather than simply tolerate the pain of things we go through, we should turn it into opportunities of self-growth. Now, over at Progressive Union Missionary Baptist Church in Huntsville, what was your big takeaway for their sermon?
That, pain can change us, but we have to thank God for giving us those experiences to make us better people.
Okay. My big takeaway was you need to remind yourself that though you may be in a furnace of problems and difficulties, God is controlling the temperature. So we're going to talk more about those two sermons a little later in the show. But right now, let's go on to the Song of the Week in Resa's playlist.
Are we ready? It's time.
We narrowed it down to one song. This is Song of the Week, currently featured on With the Quickness Spotify playlist.
What's up this week, Resa?
So this week I have a new artist. His name is Josiah Russell, and he has a song out called Make It. He is a 20-year-old student at North Carolina Central University. He's actually going to be crowned Mr. NCCU tomorrow on Halloween.
Okay.
So congrats to him.
Congrats.
Yes. He has opened up for Leandra Johnson and Fred Hampton. He recently was working security at Kaylani's, at one of her shows, and she heard him singing. I guess while he was being security, and she asked him, does he know any of her songs? He said no, but she still pulled him up on stage, and he was able to sing for the crowd. And he's been singing since he was 3 years old, in the church. So he is, again, a new gospel artist, and he really wants everyone to download his song "Make It," which is about, he knows that he's going to make it by keeping, God first, because God's going to help him make whatever dreams that he has or any goals that he wants to make. So definitely, check out his song "Make It." It's on all streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, and it's also on YouTube.
So what kind of song is it? Is it like a slow R&B, pop? What kind of song vibe is it? If you had to compare it to other artists that you might listen to, what kind of genre?
It definitely gives me like it gives me like a R&B vibe to it. It definitely sounds modern. It sounds like something that you would hear on the radios today, for sure.
It gave me, when I listened to it, like an R&B / hip hop, because it reminded me of Chris Brown a tiny bit. Like it could be played right before or after his song, that kind of vibe. But it's definitely very Christian, almost like Tone X a little bit. There was another singer that we had that sang "My God." Remember that song "My God" from last season that we played?
Yeah, that was by Jordan Armstrong.
Yeah, he could be played right along with Jordan Armstrong. If you heard a Jordan Armstrong song on the radio and he came on next, you would say to yourself, oh, it's an R&B hip hop vibe going on this hour that the DJ's playing. Right. It's definitely that same kind of cadence. Really, really something the kids would probably love to play, right, Resa? Especially in their cars and vehicles.
Yeah, of course.
Now, what kind of drew you to this song? Is it because it's so new? Or is it because it's something that was kind of along the same line of the musicians you've been listening to in the past?
Well, because this song is brand new, I'm really trying to hone in on the artists that are, new to the scene. Of course, we love the ones that are that are vets. We appreciate them, but I also want to shine light on those that are just coming into the game because they do have really good bodies of work.
Now, is this his first single, or this is like one of the first three, or is it going to be on an
This
album?
is his second single, if I'm not mistaken. He did put out a single in January, but this is his second one.
Okay, so we might actually hear him singing this and as opening for other acts, right?
Right.
It might take off to the point if you heard it, and if we can get the word out there about it, he might actually be at different events singing this song. Not only those for like churches, but maybe little concerts and things like that, getting more
Right.
popularity behind the song and more plays. So if we actually request the song, is it available for DJs to play, or is it just something streaming online right now?
Well, right now it is streaming on the different streaming platforms, and it is on iTunes. I mean, and it is on YouTube. I'm sure if you called into your local gospel station, they should have it.
They should find it. They should find it and play it. So if you want it played on XM radio, because that's what you listen to, then you send them that little chat link, whatever it is, DM, and let them know you want to hear that song. And if you're listening to a certain gospel station that plays R&B and hip hop too, then you let them know this song exists. And let's get this young man some play, because he is being crowned tomorrow.
Yes. It's
and
there.
and he's really passionate about the contemporary gospel, because that's what it is, right?
Right. Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Resa. Now, if anybody wants to send you a song, they can just send it to Resa@withquickness.com, correct?
Correct.
All right, great. And I hopefully, if you haven't had a chance to listen to any of the playlists that Resa has put up so far for season 2, please come check it out on withquickness.com. And look and just click Resa's playlist tab, and you'll actually see the songs that are listed there for the week. And you'll also see the past playlist we have for season 1, which you really enjoyed putting together, right, Resa?
Yes, I did.
Now, is there a video for this young man's song yet? Is it something he's working on, or a lyric video or anything?
Well, this song just came out, so there wasn't a lot of information about it. So I'm sure, depending on how popular it gets, he'll probably make a video for it. But again, he still is like a new gospel artist. So
Okay, looking at on my phone just now, it looks like there is a song up of it, but it's not a lyrical song, but it just plays the track and it has a graphic up there. So we can definitely put that on our page so people can actually hear the song in its totality. But we really want you to go to the streaming services and get him those downloads, get him get the traction behind the songs. I think, like you said, like Mr. Armstrong, Jordan Armstrong song, I think his song could be up there with it, right?
Right.
Good competition. Competition makes us all better. Iron sharpens iron. So let's give Mr. Armstrong a little competition from the newbie coming through. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that, Resa. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, let's go on to the bulk of our show. Let's go to First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset. They began with their praise and worship with singers and musicians setting the tone. And Pastor Quick reminded us, because this is the 5th Sunday, he said the 5th Sunday is always a very interesting Sunday in the Baptist faith, because some people like to take that Sunday off after having 4 Sundays in a row. They go, oh, we got 5 Sundays this month. Oh, I'm taking that one off. He would prefer we all keep coming to church, but he understands sometimes that happens. But this Sunday, the 5th Sunday at First Baptist, was considered Missionary Sunday. So the members of the church had an opportunity to actually honor the missionaries and the emeritus missionaries with emeritus status. They got beautiful stoles. We acknowledge the work they've done. We also even highlighted in the I Press My Worship theme, Darian Auteri. He's in the ministry, the media ministry of First Baptist. And he and the other technicians that work so hard to make the online service, the virtual service, a great one with the sound and the visuals. It was nice to see a face behind all the hard work. And I know he's one of many people that are working on things, but it was nice that he was able to bear his testimony and talk about his love of why he does what he does. And to have everybody online to give him virtual claps and appreciation was wonderful, Resa. Did you see that today when everybody was like clapping and saying thank you to the media ministry?
Yes, I did see that. There was a lot of shout outs and claps. So it was nice to see.
Yeah, it really, really was. So after that beautiful intro was set by the church, Reverend Quick went on to go into his sermon, which he titled this week, Can't Touch This. The scripture comes from Luke chapter 4, verse 16 through 30 of the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. Now, in this text, the text reminds us that Jesus is a preacher. And he's also healed and worked wonders. He was been delivered from danger, and he forgave sins. But here, immediately following his baptism, Jesus came to be among his own people in the synagogue of his hometown. And this is where he decided to preach. The reaction of him preaching in the synagogue kind of got a mixed reaction. At first, people were kind of marveling at how gracious his words were, how well spoken he was. But then things kind of changed. And by the time he was finished speaking, they were wanting to run him off a cliff. That's what they really wanted to do. And that was the intro for this beautiful sermon given by Reverend Dr. Quick. The title, Can't Touch This, comes from MC Hammer. Remember MC Hammer back in the 90s declaring, "Stop, hammer time," and then doing that dance with those little what do you call parachute pants going back and forth. Remember that, Resa?
Yeah, and then didn't he have like 30 or 50 dancers on stage at one point?
He had a whole crew. I mean, if you think what we had at the Super Bowl was fantastic, he did that every time he had a concert, that many dancers around him. He used that popular refrain, Pastor Quick used that popular refrain, "You can't touch this," to remind everyone that everyone can be transformed in the kingdom of God. All of us. In our community right now, Muslims and Jehovah's Witnesses work hard to reach souls just like people of other faiths do. So every missionary of faith knows that ministerial work means you have to face some kind of rejection, right? Rejection is part of the journey. And before he started to get more into his sermon, he stopped for a moment and reminded us. He said, "Don't forget to vote. Vote like your lives depend on it." He made sure he drove that home. He said, "Wait a minute, let me make sure I say this. You people, get out of here and vote. Go vote. Go vote." So let us take a moment too in our podcast to say the same thing if you are in the United States. Now's the time of year where voting must happen again in the midterm elections. Please do your part. Go to the polls and vote. Those that have not returned your ballots, return your ballots. Those that are planning on being online, I know it's uncomfortable sometimes. I know some of you are in cold places and don't want to do it. Bundle up, do it. Do it not only for yourself, but for people before you that work so hard to give you that right to vote. End of PSA, right, Resa?
Well, also let me add to, if you live in Jersey and you want to vote in person, that day is November 8th. So make sure on November 8th, whether you're going before work or after work, that you go to the voting areas and you vote.
Thank you, Resa. Oh, I'm sorry. Now is end of the PSA, public service announcement. Now, okay, going back to Can't Touch This. Now, Jesus knew if you loved him, then the world will hate you. So Pastor Quick referred to an Inc.com article, and it's INC.com article, written by psychotherapist Amy Soren, titled 5 Ways Mentally Strong People Overcome Rejection. So here's how you can overcome rejection and become more mentally strong. Here's the 5 ways. He said, you've got to acknowledge your emotions. Meaning, rather than suppress and ignore and deny the pain you're going through, mentally strong people acknowledge their emotions. They admit when they've been embarrassed, when they've gotten sad, when they've been disappointed, when they've been encouraged. They just acknowledge it has happened. They don't ignore it. Secondly, they view rejection as evidence that you're being pushed to the limit. Mentally strong people know that rejection serves as proof that they're living their life to the fullest. If you are, like how they say, haters gonna hate, you don't know you're really pushing yourself to do something until you feel some resistance, like swinging for the fences. Can you relate to that, Resa, seeing people like working hard to get their dreams off the ground, singers, writers, even people around you, and just feeling the resistance but pushing through anyway?
Yeah, every day people are getting rejected, whether it's like for a job, whether it's someone trying to shoot their shot to that guy or that girl. Like everyone at some point has faced rejection, but you just have to like change your mind frame about it and not be like, it's okay to be like sad and maybe even like a little, and I say a little upset, 'cause you really shouldn't be that upset about it, but again, it's okay to have like temporary emotions, but I really wouldn't sit and stew in it, because again, like the old saying goes, sometimes, that rejection is God's protection. So
That's true. That's true. That's an old saying because it has rang true for a lot of things. Now, sometimes people say, oh, God didn't want that relationship for me because he was protecting me. Sometimes people's mouths ruined a blessing. Like, no, God didn't protect you. Your mouth's ruined you getting that blessing. Sometimes it's that too. So you got to make sure you're prayerful in your decisions and things. So God can kind of whisper to your spirit, yes, that's something he wants you to do, or nah, that was for you. I guess you're going to repeat this lesson again with somebody else.
Right. And then too, like sometimes like the timing could just be wrong. So
be.
like you could want to, do something, go somewhere, and like it just doesn't pan out at that time. It may not mean that it's not going to happen. It's just that at that moment, it's not the right time. Maybe there's some things that, God needs you to like mature in and grow up in. And, if it does come around, you'll be ready for it. But at that moment, you just weren't.
True.
That's okay.
Well, number 3, Pastor Quick says, again, coming from the article, 5 ways mentally strong people overcome rejection. Treat yourself with compassion. The third one, treat yourself with compassion. Rather than thinking you're so stupid for thinking something or for taking a long shot, mentally strong people actually treat themselves kindly. Their response to negative self-talk, when they find themselves starting to talk negatively about themselves in their brain, is actually to do some self-care for themselves. Pastor Quick even talked about some people date themselves. Like, he's like, if you get rejected and someone's like, I don't want to go out with you, you're ugly. He was like, don't matter. No one can date me better than me. He takes himself to a place he wants to eat. He wears the clothes he wants to wear. He's nice to himself. I think everyone needs to get in the habit of being kind to themselves. Don't you, Resa?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because I feel like if more people would love themselves first, they wouldn't tolerate some of the things that they currently are tolerating. Because sometimes, unfortunately, you can tell whether it's a guy or a girl, like the people that they surround themselves with, like they may not be treating them the best, and they may be confused as to, I don't understand like why I'm always around people that are like that. But then you have to actually flip it on yourself to say like, what makes you think like this is the best that's going to get for you? Like you can't expect people to love you if you don't love yourself first.
That's true. Some people actually believe, and I know it's hard, but some people actually believe, well, if I reject a friendship, if someone's trying to become my friend, but I reject that friendship, I'm actually saying in some way I'm better than them. And that's not what it is. Sometimes it's like, if your paths don't align, right? It's not good to be with someone that's going to actually make you falter in your walk. Like if you're a person that say, you have this job, brand new job, trying to get there on time every morning and do your job. But you have this friend that likes to stay up late at night and wants you to and listen to music and wants you to do that with them. That's what you've always done. Before, when you were unemployed, you could hang out, listen to music late because why? There was no job in the morning. But now you have a job.
Right.
And now you have a choice. You can either say, sorry, friend, can't hang out as much as I used to because I'm busy. I got a job in the morning. Or you can try to do both and end up possibly ruining your opportunity at that job. So you have to actually ask yourself too, is like, okay, am I going to do what's right for me and be compassionate about the walk I'm on and realize it's okay, it's a time and a season for certain things? Doesn't mean you got to end the friendship, but you might have to change the boundaries of that friendship.
Right.
Just a little bit. Doesn't mean you care about them any less.
Right. And then like if your friend is making you feel bad because your priorities have now changed, and because technically, let's be real, every 5 years, a person can change. So who you were when you were in high school versus who you were in college compared to who you are after college, and after that, like you're going to keep changing. So if you're at a point in your life where you really cannot be on the phone for like 8 hours at a time because you have work super early in the morning, or I don't know, maybe you have to prepare for like a presentation, your friends shouldn't, if your friend really knows you and they know what you're trying to do, they really should not be that upset about it. They should, if anything, respect it and be like, I get it. Like, I wish we could hang out more, but I understand what you're trying to do. And I'll be there when when the time actually like allots for it.
And that's kind of hard though, because some people, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it. I'm just going to keep it real. It's hard because some people that have a hustler mentality and they do a lot of things, if you hang out with people that don't hustle in the same kind of vigor that you're hustling with things, it's hard for them to understand. They think you're being busy just to be busy. Oh, if you would just slow down, you're acting like my friendship is not important, or you're acting like my relationship with you is not that important. It's not that. It could be the focus they have on their life on the things that they need to do. And they could be very purpose-driven things.
Right.
Might be making them, toggle between a lot of responsibilities. Like they're a mom and they're a wife and they have a career and they do stuff in their church. They might have a lot of things on their plate. And if you're just a person that's a single girlfriend, you don't have anything to do other than go. Maybe you have one job. You don't really do anything in your community. You don't really do anything at your church. It's just your job, and you just hang out with your girlfriends. It might seem to you like this person is blowing you off.
Right.
But I know one thing that's true. When hustlers hang out with other hustlers, and they go, "Yo, I got to check your action later. I'm busy." They're like, "Oh yeah, do what you got to do," because they have stuff they have to do too.
Right.
They never take it as a negative.
Right.
Another hustler never takes a hustler hustle as a negative. Because they're like going, you know what? Do you, boo? I'm doing me. Got you. I'll check your action on the other side,
Right. It's true. Like, I believe that. I can say from how I was when I was younger, and I was pretty much, I want to say maybe like right after college, and I had like that period where I was just working, didn't really have much to do, but it was like whatever. I had more free time. But once I got a little bit older and I was like working more and I was doing more things, I started to feel a shift within myself. But luckily I had friends that were like, listen, I get it. Like, you're now doing things. It's not a big deal. But at first for me in the beginning, coming straight out of college, and, I had some friends that were doing a lot. I did kind of take it personal because I was like, I don't understand. Like, why can't we hang out? And they're like, because I'm busy. I'm trying to I have 8 different interviews. I'm trying to do all this stuff. And I'm like, but again, it's just, I say that all to say there's a level of maturity that has to be obtained for someone to understand what you're trying to do, to not make it like a personal situation.
You're absolutely right. So let's move on. I don't want to go much further, but I could talk on this topic all day long.
Right.
The fourth topic, Pastor Quick says, fourth item is refuse to let rejection define you. Mentally strong people don't make sweeping generalizations when they're rejected. Like, they don't say, if one company turns them down for a job, they don't say that must mean they're incompetent at all things. If a person doesn't want to be in a relationship with them anymore, they don't say, I'm unlovable. They don't make those kind of generalizations about themselves. And then the final one that he mentioned in this category was learn from your rejection. And I like this. Mentally strong people ask themselves, what did I gain from this rejection? What can I learn from this rejection? So rather than simply just tolerating the pain and say, yeah, that happened to me, they turn it around and say, is this an opportunity for me to see self-growth in myself? Because with each rejection that a person goes through, you're supposed to get stronger and better. It's like a refiner's fire. So before he ended the sermon, Pastor Quick reminded us of a couple of things. He said, you need to want a lot of people want the glory, but they don't want the battle. Everyone wants the Spirit of God to kind of rest upon them and, have that look of, doing everything right. And God's Spirit is within me. But it's kind of, they also don't want what Satan does when you want God to rest on you. Like, if you want God's presence in your life, then you got to know Satan is waiting to attack people like that. Oh, you're embracing God and going to church every day? Well, he's going to make it harder for you to get up and go to church. Oh, you're trying to do the right thing with your money and pay your tithe. He's going to make sure that one bill you never thought was going to hit you is going to hit you. That one debt you never thought was going to hit you is going to hit you. And say then, now are you strong enough to give the return and give your tithing back now? Because your tithing amount would pay for that debt that automatically popped up. And he wants to see what you're going to do. And those tests, even though we go through them, they are still supposed to give us growth. Some people aren't blessed because he said they're not walking in their purpose. That's what Pastor Quick says. Sometimes you're not walking in your purpose. Sometimes the glamour of the world is something we need to turn away from and think more about embracing the will of God in our life so that we can actually see him moving in our life and helping us with our battles. What do you think about that, Resa? Like sometimes you get under attack just by doing the right thing. Doing the church thing can be like, for church folks, you're more under attack if you're doing it right.
Honestly, I just got done watching an interview between Angie Martinez and Kelly Rowland. Shout out to both of them. I love them. And Kelly was saying that every time she's on the brink of greatness, pretty much, she knows the devil is like literally about to come, like he's gonna come around the corner to try to like do something to take her off her path. And I firmly believe that when you are walking in your purpose and you're trying to do the right thing, somehow, some way, Diablo wants to come through and try to like sideswipe you or try to redirect you because he doesn't want you to walk in your purpose. It happens time and time again. But as long as you hold tight to your faith, Mariah, and you keep going, you're good. Just saying.
And you're absolutely right, because I know when he not only comes for you when you're trying to do the right thing, sometimes you've already accomplished something great. And the world is taking knowledge of that. And he tries to manipulate and hurt you there too. We saw it at the Oscars. You know, Will Smith got up there, his finest moment to be nominated and to win Best Actor for a major motion picture. And Satan was right there. His buttons got pushed. First thing that Denzel said to him is like, he took him aside and he whispered in his ear and reminded him, in our finest hours, that's when, things can go awry. You gotta get it back together, It happens. Sometimes it happens on the walk. Sometimes it happens after the journey. After the journey's over and you think you did the right thing, sometimes then he pops up and be like, oh, listen to them talking about you. They're saying you're great. They're saying you're wonderful. And you start believing the hype and stop giving glory to honor to God. Sometimes in those speeches, Resa, used to be, when I was growing up, every speech, everybody got up and said, I want to give honor and praise to God for this award. I couldn't do without him. I don't hear that as much. I hear it, but not as much as when I was a kid when it comes to award ceremonies.
Well, you're not lying, because technically, listen, all I can say is the artists that I like, most of them, I want to say 99.9% of them, the ones that I follow, pretty much do give praise and glory to God first before they say anything else. I do feel like when Diablo is trying to come and sideswipe people, you also have to have like a good group around you as well. Because sometimes, whether it's, if you battle some type of like mental health situation, whether it's, depression or anxiety, or maybe you're dealing with imposter syndrome, you need someone in your inner circle to remind you, like, those are just white lies that you are like repeating to yourself that are not true.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The final point that Pastor Quick made was that Jesus shows us that power will give us purpose. Jesus is the one that's anointed. We're not anointed. Jesus is anointed. He paid for the anointing, and then he extends that to us. He extends his anointing to us. We need to practice our praise even when we're in trials. We need to keep praising and worshiping our Lord and Savior. He said, remember, you won't know who you are until people get mad at you. But don't worry, they can't touch this, which is really cute. No matter what we go through, God's there for us. If you enjoyed Pastor's sermons, just this little recap is all we did to really get the full flavor. I mean, he even did a little rapping. Did you see that, Resa, today?
Yeah,
he rapped a little bit. He had some bars. You got to listen to it yourself. Pastor Quick's sermon, You Can't Touch This, was live streamed on October 30th, 2022 on the FBC Somerset YouTube channel. So please, when you get a moment, check it out. You will not be disappointed. Okay, let's go on to our next house of worship, which is Progressive Union Missionary Baptist Church in Huntsville, Alabama. They posted an October 23rd, 2022 sermon that we think you're going to enjoy. It's called Don't Waste Your Pain. The speaker was Reverend Dion J. Watkins. The scripture comes from Job chapter 23, verse 10 of the New King James Version. This is a part of the scripture where Job's statement is given after he loses everything. This is what he says in this verse. He says, but he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I shall come forth as gold. Now, the furnace of Job's trial was not a reflection of his transgressions. Job's suffering was a refining ministry that God had permitted to overtake one of his faithful servants, but for a purpose. The fires of affliction, even though they may be painful, either can scorch and singe a servant of God, or they can become like a purifying tool that can refine our character and hone us into a man or woman of God, just the way God desires. So Reverend Watkins started off by saying, all of us live through things that we don't even understand, right? He said, we're like puzzle pieces that have a perfect place within a puzzle. When you look at the piece itself, it doesn't make sense. But if you look at that box, and none of us can do that, only God can look at the box, right? Look at the box. It's a beautiful tapestry. It's a beautiful picture waiting to be put together, right? So he said, we must thank God for giving us experiences that are going to make us better. Make that little puzzle piece that we are, the little pieces of our life. When you put it together and you're looking back as an older person over the course of your life, you'll see the beautiful tapestry. That's one of the things I loved about funerals. They're difficult to go to, but when the family takes the time to write about a loved one's life and the things they contributed to the world and to their family and to their friends and to their community, it's quite touching how someone's fingerprints were all over a family just by being a part of it, or all over a church just by being one of the disciples of Christ within that church, or all over a community just because they gave themselves in that way in community service. So it's just a beautiful thing. So for me, when I was listening to him talking about how pain changes us and how, God might know the whole big story, but we don't, I was ready. I think I was really ready to hear that message. I think all of us have been through some painful things, but on the other side, we knew it was something we had to go through. What about you, Resa?
Yeah, I think in my life, I have seen pain change people for the better, and I've also seen pain change people for the worse.
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, if you continue to keep God first and you really take a minute to be still and you really do have a moment to reflect, and you may not understand why you're going through it at that time, but when you're like a couple weeks, couple months, couple years removed from it, and you look back on it, like when you see where you are and you see where you were, you might be able to understand why you may have went through that season. Because for me, I just feel like sometimes, like some of the things that I have been through, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't be equipped with the tools that I have if I did not go through some of those seasons that were not the greatest.
You're absolutely right. Reverend Watkins said, as he was talking about how pain can change us, he said, pain isn't there to stop you. It's there to develop you, just like you're saying. It's there to develop you. God is in control of our lives and what the enemy can do to us. Remember how the story of Job, Satan wanted to do all these things, and God said, you can do everything but kill him, right? So God is still in control. Everything on this earth is under God's authority. So there's still a lot of power in the name of Jesus. When we go through stuff, it is perfectly okay to call on the name of the Lord, to stop and pray, to stop and worship. That's what God is expecting us to do in our most deepest times of despair. The person on your job is getting on your ever-loving last nerves, and you about to lose all your Christianity. You better call on the name of Jesus. I don't care if you got to go into a restroom. I don't care if you got to take a walk around the block. You better figure it out and make sure God is in that tape either in your head in constant prayer, mumbling under your breath, or you got to say his name out loud away from other people. But you call on him because that's what he's there for. Right, Resa?
Right. And I think sometimes too, when you come across those type of people that literally like wreck their last nerve, 9 times out of 10, it's not even about you in particular. They're going through their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's like you're just that target that is there. Case in point, I don't know if people have realized, but the last couple of years, I know Disney's been doing it. They've been making movies about the villains, like trying to give them like their backstories so we could understand like why they are the way that they are. Not saying it's right, but at least you can understand, okay, now I know why this person behaves the way they do because they've been through a lot of pain. And instead of them using that to say, you know what, I went through a lot, like I don't want to inflict that on other people. Some people want to use that to justify, well, oh, I went through all this stuff and therefore that's why I can do X, Y, and Z. One of my heroes, Oprah Winfrey, literally had like a super rough childhood. And instead of her, like, if she wanted to be super mad and upset, I can understand it. based on what she has went through, but she decided to not be a victim of her circumstances, and she really wanted to do better and try to help out the next person.
I'm glad you brought up the Disney thing. I loved how Angelina Jolie plays Magnificent now. Is that what it is? Magnificent?
I think it's Maleficent.
I'm sorry, Maleficent.
Maleficent. Yeah,
Maleficent. Sorry. Yeah. But she was like, if you look at the original cartoon, all we knew was she was an evil sorceress. That's all we knew. Turns into a big dragon at the end, you know, gets killed. But that's all we knew. She's evil, evil, evil. I loved the new rendition of it where it's going, telling boys and girls, moms and dads, anyone that wants to watch it, that everybody comes into the world basically good. No, you don't get born evil, okay? I mean, maybe some people can say there's exceptions to that. But for the Disney universe, they're trying to say everybody comes into the plane as basically a good, loving person, a decent person, until something happens that they make a choice and a shift change. And they decide to become evil with the hands rubbed together, feeling to it, right? And I like that they show that because they make it that the choices you make form the person you're going to be.
Right.
It's not just, you know, we had a good person, you have a bad person. The good person is regular skin tone, the bad person going to have purple skin. It's not that simple, right? It's you can be a beautiful, a handsome, a well-dressed, very nice person, bunch of empathy in your heart, and something can happen that can twist the knife and make you dark, cold, and twisted. That's what Disney is saying. Sometimes life happens. The beautiful thing about biblical characters is, yes, life happens and we make choices and we have a choice between good and evil. You also have a redemptive quality. You can be far off the path in a certain way and you can still turn back and become good. Now, Disney hasn't shown too many characters that are bad becoming good. I can't think of one in particular yet.
Right.
They've all died and things like that have happened to them, or they got banished, or they went off into the, you know,
into like the abyss or something.
Yeah, it's like I don't think there's too many of the bad person becoming good. Ursula with the Little Mermaid, I think she died, right?
Yeah, she pretty much died by a spear. She got speared by the boat.
Yeah, with Snow White, you know, one of the princesses, I believe they pushed that chick. The dwarfs pushed that chick off a cliff or something, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. Like I feel like back in the day, they made it very blatantly clear. Like if you're evil, you're
gonna
evil.
Die.
Yeah, and then if you're good, you're good. But nowadays, because and again, I could be wrong. I feel like nowadays they're trying to say, yes, there are good people. Yes, there are bad people. Can a bad person be rehabilitated to be good? Yeah. Can a good person make a bad mistake? Yeah. But can they also redeem themselves? Yeah. So just because someone is labeled a certain
attribute, good or bad,
good or bad, like doesn't mean that they can't work to better themselves and be a better person.
Yeah, and I think it's good to not killing everybody off. You can have an end of a story where the person goes away, where the person goes, we're enough of this place, and they go on to their realm, because then they can come back another day and they can learn another lesson and they can become someone different. I believe in some stories they can have good tendencies and say, you know, oh, you're welcome to come be with us, but I don't want nothing to do with those do-gooders. You know, some evil people be like, this is my place over here. That's where they live over there. They know if they come over here, they're gonna have something to deal with. Like, remember Scar in the Lion King? He knew he lived in the cliffs.
Yeah, that was
his brother, the king, was on the prairie and had all the animals, but he knew he was in the rocks and the cliffs with the hyenas and everybody else. He knew where he goes.
Wasn't that like the Wiz though? Because there was like a bad witch and there was a good one, and obviously,
and they knew what parts of the kingdom to be on.
Right.
So we totally get it. So I like the fact that they're showing that there's more layers to characters, and kids got to remember, and adults too. When everybody's getting online, Resa, and getting mad that the Little Mermaid's a black woman, or a black mermaid, they got to understand these. Like Kiki Palmer said, these are all characters. I mean, her best friend's a crab. Let's leave fiction as fiction. She's not a real person. All right, we got other fish to fry in the real world.
That's the thing. And the thing that kills me about it is it's a mermaid. Like, mermaids can be black, they can be Spanish, they can be like Middle Eastern. Like, it doesn't have to be just a white human. Like, I don't understand why people are getting so upset about it. Like, it's 2022.
There's all kind of fish in the sea.
That's the thing.
There's all kind of fish in the sea. That's how I look at it.
This is what literally drives me crazy. It is 2022. We have different races, different nationalities. I don't understand why everything has to stay the same. I want to see more people of color. Like, I don't want to just see the same. Oh yeah, we have, you know, this person that's this color, this person that's that color. I want to see different religions, different races. Educate me. I don't
But I
want to just
get
see
it.
the same
I
old,
get
same
though.
old.
The author in me gets how some people like the purity of the original story. I get it. They have in their mind who the characters were. They remember the story. They kind of want it to stay. Some people want their stories untouched. I get it. But they're like capsules in time, capsules of their childhood. And when you mess with their childhood, they come feeling some kind of way. Why? Because they fell in love with the story. So I can get that feeling, but it's not sustainable in a multicultural society where we want to see images of everybody represented. It's okay for Cinderella to be Asian in one story and be African American in another story and maybe Hispanic in another story. They all can be Cinderellas. It doesn't have to be just one Cinderella. And so those that are holding on to their childhood stories like that, with that vice grip, all Resa's saying is, let go. Like the Frozen song, let it go, let it go.
Yeah,
Just let
listen.
it go.
I'm just saying let it go because it's not like the original is not available. You can still watch it. If you're like, hey, My Little Mermaid is, you know, the Ariel from the 90s, you can keep her. She's still there. But just know that for the people that look like me, there's another one that's out and she is a black woman and she has dreads. And we
And
love
there's
her.
another one.
Right.
And there's
So I'm
another
just
one.
like, I'm
What's
like,
the rapper that says it all the time? It's another one. Who says that?
I can't recall.
DJ Khaled. Does he say that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's DJ Khaled. He goes, and another one.
And another one.
But I just feel like when it comes to characters that, again, can be anything, why don't we just try to do anything? Like,
Yeah.
I like to be outside the box.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And getting back to the sermon, though, 'cause we got to wrap up this sermon. We do take our lovely tangents, only because this is a real conversation.
Yeah.
So there's a part that Reverend Watkins talks about where he says, no one can stop true disciples of Christ from praising and worshiping God. He said, remind yourself that you may be in a furnace of problems and difficulties, but God controls the temperature. He controls that thermostat, right? And that thermos metaphor is in reference to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These are Hebrew young men in the book of Daniel. And in this book, they were thrown into a fiery furnace by the king Nebuchadnezzar II. He's the king of Babylon. And they were thrown in there because they refused to bow before the king's golden statued image of himself. So just like they were in the furnace, but the fire did not engulf them or their clothing or a hair on their head, we can go through things too, a furnace of problems, and God will still protect us and take care of us and see us through if we just lean on him. So he wrapped up by saying there's a purpose to our pain and our trials. A person of faith must learn to trust in God when we experience any difficulty. He said a person of faith will gain a stronger testimony when they're tested. So it's important that we don't let the negativities of life make us mad, mean, or nasty to each other or to people in the world. Christians need to behave like Christians and be steadfast. That's very, very important. God will show you a good product through the pain. On the other side of that pain, you're going to, like Resa said, you're going to look back and realize why you needed to go through that, why it was important. Sometimes he does it to shine a light on you. Maybe you went through that because of something that you started or you said or you did that you need to fix in yourself and get right with. Maybe you're going through it because he knows if he would have kept you in that position for too long, you would hurt more there than going through the hurt of the breakup or going through the hurt of losing the job, the new job you had to get to. So you had to lose the old job or something like that. So sometimes we have painful seasons, but when they come, realize it's not a random thing that's happening to you. Like, oh my gosh, this bad thing's happened to me. Sometimes it happens as a timed thing, like a birth. Like, you can be pregnant with purpose and God can see this son or this daughter of God will be where I want them to be if I got to make them go through this to get where I want them to be. This podcast wouldn't happen if we didn't go through the pain of Daniel's fast. We both know that. We wouldn't have come together and fasted according to what Pastor Quick said. We wouldn't even be here. We would have been like, Daniel's fast, corporate fast. I don't know if I want to do that. We would have been like, and we would have been like a year removed from this, where we are right now.
Right. I agree.
Sometimes we go through things, it's just all in alignment with God's plan. Sometimes it has nothing to do with us and so much more to do with Him. So you can view Reverend Dion J. Watkins' October 23rd, 2022 sermon called Don't Waste Your Pain on the Progressive Union Missionary Baptist Church's YouTube channel. So if you get a moment, please check it out because it's a lot better than our summary here. I know we touched on a lot of stuff that he didn't even talk about Disney, but we did. So please watch it and enjoy it. Okay? Now, let's go on to the screening room.
It's time for that weekly movie review in the screening room.
Resa,
Yes.
I picked a movie that I watched some time back, but I wanted to bring it to your attention because it's on Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime, it's in a lot of places and you can get to it easily.
Okay.
And it was in theaters for like a couple days back in 2018 before it went to video, and before it went to streaming too, which is called Interview with God. It was written by Ken Ayudo, directed by Perry Lang. It stars David Strattenham, Brandon Thwaites, Jali Gobralas, Carberry Dan Keurig, and Harper Hill, along with some others. Now here's a brief synopsis. Paul Asher is an upcoming journalist and he returns home from covering the war in Afghanistan when he finds his life is falling apart. His marriage is failing and he's in the grips of a personal crisis that he just can't understand. Even more pressing, a soldier that Paul befriended in Afghanistan is struggling at home too, and Paul is desperately trying to help him. But Paul's life takes a strange twist when he's offered an interview that he finds impossible to resist. It's an interview with someone who claims to be God. Now, the movie presents God as a loving deity that listens to our prayers and wants to provide answers to life's biggest questions. Many find this image of God in the movie helpful, while others will take a more contemplative approach to embracing the mysteries of God. The themes of this movie are redemption, knowledge, relationships, faith, forgiveness, marriage, post-traumatic stress disorder, it's kind of discussed in this film, covert suicidal ideations, hope, prayer, and salvation. Now you can see the trailer of this movie on our website, www.withquickness.com. It'll be up there for you to take a look at in case you do want to check out this movie for yourself. I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed the fact that this young man was asking questions that I would want to ask. Could have gone deeper and asked God about, some of the racial stuff going on down here and what's he think about the church's stance on certain issues. Yeah, but this is a short movie. We had to keep it to what the young man was going through. It couldn't be about what I wanted. But it's a really good film. I wouldn't call it for family viewing because, like I said, it does deal with post-traumatic syndrome and suicide ideations. So I don't think it's good for the young people to have to explain why someone is thinking about taking their life in any kind of way. So I wouldn't keep it for your family viewing, but I would do teenagers and up, maybe 14 and up should be okay watching it. And I hope you check it out because I really liked it. I really, really liked it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. I feel like for the teenagers that do watch it with their parents, it's one of those good conversations. Mm-hmm. And I say that as a kid that used to have to do that with you. Of course, I couldn't watch certain films, but the ones that we would watch, we have to have a conversation about what we just watched.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like, and again, I know a couple moms that do that. I don't know if a lot of moms still do that, or dads or grandparents still do that. But if you don't, definitely get back into the habit of talking to your, whether it's your kids, your nieces or nephews, your grandkids. Like when you go see a film that is like appropriate for their age group and they do touch upon certain things that are like taboo, I would open up the conversation and talk about it.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about this movie, it's on a streaming service. I watched it on PureFlix. PureFlix is not a sponsor with the Quickness, but I wish they were. Maybe one day they will be. But I watched it on a streaming service, so you can watch it before you decide to make it a family night movie. And it actually has good questions that, you would make you think a little bit. It made me wonder what questions I would ask God if I had an opportunity to talk to him face to face, first of all, I don't know if I could come back from talking to him face to face. Because, you know, Moses talked to him face to face. He came back, his whole countenance was transfigured and everything. He was kind of like transformed. So I don't know if I could do it. But in prayer, when you ask questions in prayer, sometimes you're looking for a real answer. Sometimes you want him just to whisper in your ear what the answer is. Like, what is the lottery numbers for Powerball right now? Because Powerball's in the billions right now. Woo! But no, I'm just kidding, God. I don't, you know.
But were you though? Were you?
I'm just kidding, not really. But anyway, I mean, I think this is only the second or third time in history that it's been in the billions. Could be the fourth time, but it hasn't been very. It's like as of now, it's billions.
So no one won from Saturday's drawing.
No one won. The next one is on Halloween night tomorrow. Is when it's drawn again. But I told the Lord,
I'll pray on it.
I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna pray on it, and He knows I'm a tither. I will tithe on it, Lord. I say it right here. Would. If you give me anything, the return is happening, and bigger than the return if I can help it. Because, you know, there's two of us in this relationship. You know, my husband might be like, hey, wait a minute, not all of it. You said 10. You said 10%. I can see him right now. You said 10%. So, but I'd make sure I get my 10. I would, you know. So if that helps him give me some grace when I play my numbers. I'm like, I got it right here on tape, Lord. I will not take it back. I know. I just had to get that in there because I know people are playing. I say, please don't play all of your money. Don't buy a bunch of tickets trying to get it. It's in the millions, the odds, like 1 to like 1,000,000 something that you can win this thing. I mean, the statistics are not there. But someone lucky will get it. God will bless them, and we thank him or her for having the opportunity to have their life changed. But don't spend your whole paycheck in a bunch of tickets, guys. Don't do that.
But I feel like not every time. It's probably like you said, it's like the third time the Powerball.
Fourth time it could be. Yeah,
it's been in the billions.
In the billions, yeah.
Like the last time that I heard of it being in the billions, someone from like a super small town won, you know, the lotto. So again, anyone from a small town, if you have like an extra $1 or two, stop by and buy a ticket. You never know, you could be that winner.
Anyone from a large town need to buy one. That's a big pot.
I'm just saying.
And look at it this way: every lottery puts some money towards education.
True.
But my thing is like, just don't put all your money into the lottery. It's just not. No. Don't do that. No. Don't do that. And I know we talked about God lets you go through pain and stuff. One of the pastors, I think Pastor Watkins had said, and I think I forgot to mention this. He said, sometimes you go through difficulty in order to give God the victory. Mm-hmm. You can learn something when you lose something in a moment. I know Kanye West lost stuff this week. I mean, he's lost a lot of stuff in the past couple of weeks from things he said, right? People in his bracket might say, this lottery's in the billions. I have money to play the lottery. I would tell Kanye, don't put your money into this, man. Don't try to become a billionaire through playing the lottery. Learn the lesson. Learn the lesson, whatever that lesson is. And I know now that a lot of things have been affected, I know he's on Twitter and other places saying he's learned his lesson, that he understands the gravity of what he's said. I don't think you're going to learn that quick, dude. I think you got to do a little more reflection. You know, remember how Will Smith went away and really took in the damage of what his actions did? I think it's time to be on that same path. It's more of a journey of what took you to the place where you felt comfortable to saying the things you said that could hurt a group of people. You went from Jesus walks to being, I'm like a God, to certain people need to be annihilated. All in the same lifetime, dude. You might have to take a little pause and look at all of that. So for me, please, I think all the millionaires and people that already have billions, stay out of the lottery. Let the common people play that. Let us little folks play that. People with a dollar in a dream play that. I don't like it when I see them spending millions of dollars. Not even millions. They spend a couple thousand and get a lot of tickets. It's like, dude, all they're doing is making the pot go up.
Right.
And they're making it harder for us to get it. It's like, come on.
No, trust me, I agree. And I feel like getting back to your Kanye statement, because he did come out and say some more things, I think it was yesterday. I'm not going to repeat it because it was really insensitive. I really just think Kanye needs to just take a time out and just focus on his family and just focus on, on his spiritual journey. Because to me, it just sounds like someone that's really lost and is just trying to, just do things. So he just needs to take a time out and just sit for a second.
I do understand creative genius. I do understand giving someone their props for being a creative genius in certain aspects, either music, fashion, art, dance, whatever it is, and give him the props for being an interrupter in that field of creativity. But the disrespect because you're creative, that can't be tolerated by anybody. What I have a hard time with too is when he was saying things against the Black community, that slavery was a choice and stuff of that nature. And, the thing with George Floyd and saying things about to the point where the family wanted to sue him about the derogatory things he said. I mean, dude, he should have been canceled a long time ago, if you ask me, for some of them things, or at least sat down for a while. But because so many people in the Black community gave him a pass and said, oh, it's the mental illness maybe, and, and tried to not look at it as, yeah, we still went to the concerts. We still bought the Yeezys. We still did all the things that could keep him elevated and at the table, making money. I have a problem. I was like, dude, it's like, now you said something that got a group of people very upset. Right. People outside of the Black community. And they demanded you to be silenced. And we didn't do that. As a family, we didn't say, you went too far, Kanye. As a family, we need to sit down and look at this. We need to address this with you. We need to bring you to the table and talk about this. Our elders did not come from wherever they were and meet with you. Maybe they tried, but they didn't meet with you. They weren't able to accomplish that. Those that were in your field that talked to you every day, and those that were your idols and mentors, just now in this episode, you turn your back on them. They've made statements that they are not in alignment with what you're saying, and now you've pushed back on them. But before, they were silent. They were like, I'm not really down with what he said, but that's Kanye, they left. That's Ye, that's him, And we all kind of excused it because we were the African American family looking at our own that has done so much creatively. You've done so much creatively. You're such a genius creatively, and no one wants to stifle your creativity and what you've contributed to our community. So we kind of felt like it would be a storm that would pass. We didn't think it would be a storm that would turn into, a typhoon or a hurricane. We didn't think it was going to get worse. We thought this was a moment in time. It will pass soon, and then he'll come back and he would make it right. We didn't know it was going to keep building and building and building and becoming what it is. We never thought your beautiful wife would no longer be married to you. We thought you guys were going to ride to the sunset. We thought that was a beautiful power couple, like Jay-Z and Beyonce. They a power thing. We didn't know that was going to happen. We didn't know any of this was going to happen. We couldn't even predict it. But it has. And now that the world is saying enough, now that Saturday Night Live is making skits saying it's enough and that no one else should even do partnerships with you, now you have to sit down. Now you have to sit down and look at it. Now, I personally feel as a mom that, this is not a bad thing. Losing money, people have lost money and rebuilt themselves many times over in our, history as a world, right? Mm-hmm. I think he can do the same thing again, Resa. I think, he can take the lesson, he can learn from it, he can come back better. Some people's favorite idol that they tattoo is the phoenix. The fact that you can go down in ashes and rise again, right? Mm-hmm. He can come back from this bigger, better, stronger. But the most important thing, he has to learn the lesson. He has to learn the lessons.
Yeah. And then I also want to say too, because again, I'm not a doctor, but anyone out there that is battling with any type of like mental illness, it's okay to get help. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to sit there and say, oh, I don't want to get help. Like, there's no type of like shame that's going to be brought against you. Like, if you're battling something and you need to go seek help, by all means, please go seek help.
Yeah. And there's been people that wrote many articles that have bipolar disorder that say, it's not that it makes you say things that are out of the ordinary. It makes you say things unfiltered, is what most of them are saying. It makes you say things that, maybe in your right state of mind, you might have said, I'm not going to say that because that could hurt somebody's feelings. But now you have no filter. You just say what's on your mind. So maybe some of it is medication and getting back on a regimen. Maybe some of it also is just being enlightened to realize that, the way you're thinking about people or people that aren't creative or the different races. I mean, when he was wearing the Magna hat, I had a problem. But I didn't see too many of our leaders coming forward saying, yeah, you being chummy with Donald Trump, don't know how that helps hip hop in our community, you know. But no, our community didn't say anything because we're dealing with a genius creatively.
Right.
And I love that you're a genius. I would never take that from you. I don't think anyone in your life would ever, any of the people that bought any of your music or any of your gear would ever take that from you. But it comes a time when people's boundaries get crossed, and all of us can be on and be off. What God giveth, God can take away. I didn't like the fact that he was calling himself a God. And I know he means a God as far as creatively. He could being the creative process is taking something from nothing and creating something. And that's a God-like thing to create something. But he said it in a way and too often for me that I felt like, are you trying to say something else that you're saying it so much? Because it came off more than just being creatively a God. It came more off like, you are all powerful. Your words have weight. You are the most powerful being on the planet when it comes to ABC. And whatever you say, we're hanging on to every word. And to a point, you were right. We were listening to everything you were saying because your megaphone was so huge. We couldn't help but listen. He had too many ears, Resa. He had all of our youth. He had everybody in fashion, everybody in music. He was everywhere. So we listened.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like when he said that whole, like when he rapped in his song that, I am a God. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I just whatever because I was just like, that's Kanye. He just says things that are off the wall.
Oh, I'm not talking about his song. I'm talking about his interview. He was doing interviews saying how much he's a God-like and how he's a God.
Right, but he also said that in his songs too. So like when you hear, at least for me, when I heard it in his songs and I heard him saying it in interviews, I was like, whatever, not a big deal. This is the same man that also said that whole during Hurricane Katrina, the telethon about the whole George Bush thing. We were just like wrong timing for that too. But the thing that I felt like
it was poignant because George Bush wasn't doing enough for black people at the time.
Right,
but so I get it. I get what you're saying. It was poignant. He has a lot of truth and a lot of stuff he says, but there's other things he says that is not what people are on the line with. Like you can't call yourself a good parent spewing hate about people and expect your children not to grow up hating groups of people.
Right. That's why that brings me to say when he went to the TMZ offices, I believe, and he had said that racism was a choice, that was hurtful.
That was too far for me.
Right. Because I'm just like, the amount of things that black people have gone through, like just our history, and for you to sit there on your platform and say, hey, slavery was a choice. We didn't have a choice. And if you would take the time to read the books that were written about it and watch the documentaries and talk to the scholars that studied that, we never had a choice. So
our women and girls did not agree to be raped.
Right.
Our men and women did not agree to get lashed, to get hung, to get torn apart by dogs when they decide to run for freedom. Our people did not decide to jump over. It was not a choice to jump over in the water and drown because you were dragged away from your homeland. That's not something they wanted to do. None of those things. None of those things they wanted to go through. But we've gone through them. We didn't want to be in this nation, building it up on our backs and our sweat and our blood. That wasn't a choice like we said, oh, I'm going to sign up for that. No, they were people that were running to capture us and put us in chains and drag us on boats and make that happen. Right. The ones that you see here today, we are from lineage of people that were brought here. We didn't come over here with a nice ticket and packed up our stuff and said, let's go to a new world. That's not what happened. We did not want to be on a chopping block naked and having people look at us and say, yeah, that one looks good for breeding and that one looks good to be tilling my land, etc. Like animals. No.
Right.
We didn't agree to all of that. So that, and I say all that to say, and I'm sorry about the tangent, but I say all that to say that I think what's going on right now with him, it's a lesson. It's just a lesson. It's a hard one. And you lost a lot of money and a lot of things and a lot of time, and a lot of respect. And your big megaphone of a voice is becoming closer and closer to a whisper because God wants you to be still. And I have a wonderful pastor. Reverend Dr. Quick, I'm telling you, he might not be T.D. Jakes with the big old, like he said today, like the big old, number of people throughout the world knowing his name. But that Reverend right there, he knows something about hip hop and music and culture. He knows about our history. if Kanye sat down with him for just a little bit, and let him pour into him, his life would be changed. I honestly believe that. I believe he and a couple other reverends can actually reach him. And I get that, TD Jakes is like everybody's spiritual father, really, he got a lot of lights on him. But there's something about talking to a man closer to you in age, and they're closer in age. Something about him looking in your face and going, I get what you're trying to say, and knowing the music and knowing the lingo and knowing, that rhythm of the street and how they move and operate. I think Pastor Quick could talk into him and pour into him. I really do. I think he can help him see some things he needs to see and understand before he makes his next pivot and his next move creatively. I think he needs to sit for a moment, really study the word, because he does have a lot of respect for the Bible. If you listen to the way he was when he was working with his choirs and things of that sort, and he was working on his music, his spiritual music, he has a strong love for Christ. But he also has some things that he needs to work on within his spiritual walk to learn from this lesson.
That's why I'm saying, like, he needs to take a break, because he just reminds me of someone, like, him aside. Just if I were to take the same events and put it on another person that had like the same type of access that he has now, it just reminds me of someone that's just lost, and you're just like, you just want to like take the person out of whatever environment he's in and around the people, because it feels like to me he's around people that know that he's lost, and they're just like using him and like basically like, I guess, feeding on him in a sense. And I kind of just want to be like, you need to like take a break and like go sit down somewhere and go be around people that don't want anything from you at all, and we just want to have a conversation, because what's being said and what's being done is not, it doesn't make sense, and it's very alarming. And I know his friend at the time, John Legend, him and John had a falling out because there was like some type of disconnect.
Him and Diddy have a falling out now.
Right. But that's what I'm saying though. It's like the people that would normally hold him accountable, he's now making it so that they can't even reach him because he doesn't want to be held accountable. And like, that's the problem. Like, you're willing to die on this hill and lose pretty much everything. Like, forget about the money. Your family, like, you're willing to lose your family just to die on this hill of hate. That to me is really concerning.
Yeah. And another thing that gets me too is that he's a young man, and I say young because anybody under 60 to me is young these days. But he's a young man that has, such a beautiful family, and he has so much going for him. And for people to come out of the woodworks to sit up there and make skits and jokes about him and his mental, how dare you? All of us have something that we need to learn through and and go through. And because you guys already know he's bipolar, when there's a manic state, it's going to be followed by a depressive state. You're not helping anything. A lot of people commit suicide in the depressive state. They play over and over again all the things that were said and the ridicule and everything else. You're not helping. I think you got some claps, you got some laughter, you got some ratings. You got your videos and your little snapshots played more than once, and we all talked about it for a minute. But it needs to stop now. It needs to stop, because you're not going to make anything better. In order for someone to get better, you tell them, yes, this is my boundary. This is not acceptable anymore. But you don't make fun. You be a Christian. You don't talk about them. You help. Pastor Quick made it very clear. Christians help. We don't sit up there and make it worse for a person. And that's what I really hope. If I can say anything to Kanye, I would say, I have a great pastor. You should give him a call. You should call his office and say you really want to sit down and meet, or if he can Zoom meet with you, whatever, because he could pour into you, and your life will be changed. I'm not just saying that because he's my pastor. Okay, maybe I am saying that because he's my pastor, but your life will be changed. He's a very knowledgeable man that can actually, with all the credentials, with all the credentials. I mean, his education, his study of the word is crystal clear, so if you lean on people that want you to be better, not only mentally, but spiritually, you'll get a stronger footing for the journey that you have to take. And the best thing about Pastor Quick is he'll walk with you. Just because y'all had a couple meetings, a couple talks, he will check on you. He will still be there for you. When him and his staff will be there for you. If you really want to get on the path of knowing yourself, knowing God's purpose for your life, and having a strong footing even when everything feels shaky around you. And I know Kanye's world's really shaky right now.
Yeah. I just wish for him to get better, and I wish that he would be mindful about what he says about groups of people. And I also wish that he would be mindful about what he says about himself, because I know before he was talking about death a lot, and that's kind of like really concerning because again, what you say, like, words are powerful. Yeah. And again, he has a family and he has, like, you know, young children that need him. So yeah. I just want him to get help, to be honest. Yeah,
because I mean, because the manic stage will pass, and when he comes more into himself and his thinking, and it sounds like he's starting to now, all the jokes need to stop. This is a person that is trying to get better. He is trying to get better. And maybe he's trying to do it without medication. I don't know. But the jokes are not helping anything.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. And I also just want to end on this note that, like, we do not condone any hate speech against any groups of people, whether regardless of your religion, your sex, your race. We don't condone any of that.
Or your sexual orientation.
Yeah, we don't condone it.
Not at all. Now let's go on to the Bema Seat.
Come before the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat. Where life's journeys and stories meet. Every week, testimony of the one who brings hope and victory. With joy and reverence, we will sing our praises to the King of Kings, the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat, the Bema Seat. Come before the Bema Seat.
Let's go on to my favorite part of the show. Okay, not my favorite, because you know I love the screening room. But it is one of the places that I really love to talk about. Before the Bema Seat, I decided for season 2, we're going to actually feature a story of faith, right? So today's, we're going to do the story of Luca. He's the son of Anthony and Catherine Suliveras. And it will help you understand that the veil between here and heaven is a very thin one, and that spiritual moments make a very lasting impressions in the minds of children. Okay, so this young man, Lucas, and his family are in Lancaster, PA. And the story is being told by his mom, Catherine. And a sunny day in October, Catherine and her husband, they were sitting outside with their 3 kids, Ella, who was 7, Luca, who at the time was 5, and Zoe, who's 2. And they were, as normal kids do, they were like drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. And Luca is very obsessed at age 5 with video games, especially a particular Nintendo video character. So he was on the ground with a little red chalk in his hand, and he was scribbling Mario for Mario Brothers. And he says to his mother, "Red is nice, is a nice hot color. Fire is hot, Mama. Do you remember when I was in the hospital when I was on fire?" And she froze. She said goosebumps went up her arm as her and her husband kind of made eyes with each other. And they're saying, how could he possibly know about that? See, back when Lucas was born in September 20th, 2007, he was a perfectly healthy 10-pound baby. But 3 weeks after his birth, he woke up in the middle of the night just screaming in pain because he had a fever that just wouldn't go away. So they rushed him to the hospital, where they gave him medicines and they hooked him to a bunch of machines, and they ran a lot of tests to try to figure out what's going on. But they really couldn't figure out why his fever was so high. So the next couple of days, Catherine and her husband, they just pretty much stayed at the hospital with the baby as much as they could, watching as the hope that their son Luca's fever would come down. Catherine's mother came and even watched their daughter Ella. 2 days into the stay, her mother came to the hospital with Ella, and she was holding tiny Luca's hand and singing softly when an alarm of one of the machines went off. And he's a baby at this time, right? He's only 3 weeks from being born. Ella starts to cry. His sister, Catherine's mother, ushers his sister out the room. And it was just terrible to see everybody rushing in to try to take care of him. His fever had spiked to over like 104 degrees, and he had stopped breathing. The baby stopped breathing to the point where they had to incubate him. And Catherine remembers saying, "Oh God, please let him pull through it," and just praying. They kind of pushed her out the room. She at first decided not to leave, but they stood by the window. The nurse was trying to get them out, but they stood by the window, and the nurse even held her hand, and her husband pulled her into his arms. They're just watching as they're working hard to save the baby. So thankfully, after all the chaos passed, the baby was hooked up to the ventilator and he became stabilized. The doctors never found out what made Luca sick, because eventually his fever just broke. It just broke, and he got better. He was able to breathe on his own. He wasn't wailing in pain anymore. He was just a happy baby all of a sudden. As quickly as it came, as quickly as it went. And then Catherine and Anthony were able to take their baby home. So this is what happened 5 years later. This little kid is on the ground coloring with chalk. And he's saying he remembers when he was in the hospital with the thing down his throat. Right? Could you imagine that? He's like, "I was on fire, Mama. Remember, I was in the hospital and I was on fire." And so his father says, as his son is drawing on the ground, "So what else you remember, bud?" And this is what Luca said. "I was in bed, but I was in the sky too, looking down on you guys. All of these doctors and nurses were standing around me in bed, and I was on fire, and there was a silver tube in my throat." And then, his mother's thinking, "Oh my gosh, how he remember this?" But he kept going on. His father said, "So what happened next?" And little Luca, who's 5, says, "Everyone was so loud," said Luca. "You and Daddy were hugging by the window and a nurse was holding your hand, Mama. You were crying so much. Mimi was crying too outside my room. She was with Ella." Mimi is Catherine's mom. "The nurses were wearing green suits," he said kind of matter-of-factly. And then he just went on playing, drawing his chalk on the ground. Like nothing. He said it like, Miss Catherine and Mr. Anthony looked at each other like, "Oh my goodness." Could you imagine to go through something with an infant and then they tell you 5 years later, something that no one in the family is talking about, has ever talked about to him or anyone else. They were just glad it happened and it was over and no one had even discussed it. One thing that Miss Catherine made very clear from this, she was amazed, her husband was amazed, and she said, it was, to her now, it's no longer a painful memory, thinking back of what happened to their baby with that unbelievable fever that no one could explain. For her now, it's affirmation that there's definitely something beyond this life. What do you think about that, Resa? Boom, right drop from baby Luca.
My jaw's on the floor, because that would honestly shock me if I had a child that went through that and they told me years later, "Oh yeah, I remember that." I'm like, wait, how?
Just by thinking of the color red and thinking about when he was hot and on fire. I'm like, no one's even talking about.
Right.
He's coming up with his own. No one's saying anything while these kids are drawing on the floor, on the ground.
Right.
This is all coming from him. Yeah, I would have wrote about it too. I would have told somebody, my son done saw some stuff. And especially if I was in that instance and I remember it vividly myself, and I know he has no recollection. So now I feel like, as a grandmother, whatever happens around my grandchildren, let's be very mindful that they're sponges. They're taking in stuff, and you never know what is said or done now in their formative time is not going to come back out of their mouth later.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for spiritual things, temporal things, things of this world, whatever we do. That's why I think it's a great time to teach them the things they need to know and to model for them the images that they should have around them, because they're absorbing everything. So if you would like to share a story of your Christian experience, one that will inspire new or rededicated Christians, please visit www.withquickness.com and select the Bema Seat tab. There you'll fill out our interview form so we can schedule a virtual interview with you. You can also email Bema Seat at withquickness.com to begin the guest process or to share a story you would like us to tell on our podcast. So, Resa, another episode down.
Yes.
We discussed a lot. Do you think Kanye's going to come for me? I hope he doesn't come for me. I don't know. He might.
Listen,
you're worried. I can see you're worried.
No, I'm not. I'm not worried. It's just like what had just recently happened tied into the sermon of the second pastor.
Pain. So. Yep. And I look at it this way too. If Kanye, you do want to come from me, you got things you got to say to me. I tell you what, speak to my pastor first. He's on Instagram and he's on Facebook. Speak to him first, and believe me, he will help you out. You can tell him I sent you. You can say, Angeline Bishop Thomas told you to come talk to Pastor Quick, and I hear this is where I can find you. And send him a little line. Tell him, I heard you can say some things that could possibly help me on my walk spiritually. So what you got to say? And just listen to him. Believe me. Oh, he got stuff to say. He has stuff to say.
I highly doubt that, Kanye's going to try to come for anybody right now because he's really trying to, I don't know, what he's trying to do. But I doubt he's, searching YouTube. But then again, you never know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he does. I just don't know what he does in his spare time. So
I think he's a creative genius. He's a creative genius, though, that needs some spiritual direction a little bit. No man's an island. We all got to be covered by somebody. We all got to have somebody to turn to for some guidance and advice.
Right.
And then you make your choices from there. So that's my plug for you to come to church. This podcast is all about new and rededicated Christians. I know he's dedicated to his faith. Hey, come on through. Come on through. Get a word, find a word, embrace a word. That's what we're all about here.
Yes.
Yes. Well, Resa, it was lovely, like always, to spend this time with you. It's Sunday. Tomorrow's Halloween. Are you dressing up for Halloween? Or just giving out stuff to trick-or-treaters? Or just ignoring the door and watching something nice that's full of the holiday spirit at home?
Well, seeing as though I just paid my rent, I will be ignoring. I don't have the funds this year. Next year, I'll try because I really did. I wanted to dress up for Halloween. The bills kept coming. Gotta get paid. So,
I know.
And plus, Halloween fell on a Monday this year, so I was like, ugh, that's unfestive to me. So,
I get you. I get you. I mean, we have a Pantheon. We have a Pantheon for our podcast. We don't even talk about it. For those that want to help us on our mission for our podcast, please donate to our Pantheon. Goodness gracious, get a mug or a T-shirt on us by helping us out. Otherwise, just please keep showing your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing our broadcast and leaving comments. We really appreciate it when you do.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Next year, things will be better. And then Halloween doesn't move forward to Tuesday, though. It slowly goes through the week.
Tuesday.
It'll be Tuesday.
So either way, people will still be celebrating that weekend before. And I guess those weekend parties are okay, but it's listen, my bills got to get paid first. So if I have money left over after my bills are paid, then maybe I'll do something. But if not, then it's I'm happy to be here because I just don't know what else.
We're going to be handing out candy over here.
Yeah.
So we have the house outside decorated. Nothing with goblins and ghouls. I don't do that. But we do have a wreath that says trick or treat. Remember you went with me and we picked that out?
Yes.
And we have a little sign that says the rules of trick or treating that we put in the window. And we'll give out candy. Hopefully enough that it's not in my house. I do terrible when candy's left in my house. Resa.
And see, that's why I didn't buy any candy either. Because I'm working out 4 times a week, not a day, a week. And I don't got time to be sitting here having candy that I like because I like sugary goodness. I'm gonna sit here and sabotage myself. No,
you're doing so good. You did 8 miles, you said the other day?
Yeah. So
wow.
I have a Peloton. Again, Peloton is not sponsored on our podcast, but yeah, I use Peloton. I did an 8-mile bike race.
Nice.
With Cody Rigsby. Love him.
Oh my gosh, you were really doing it.
Yeah.
I heard he's a beast when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, he's a beast. So is Tunde. So is Kendall, and so is Robin, and so is Allie. I normally, those are my go-to trainers.
Okay.
So I know when I pick them, whether it's for cycling or whether it's for strength training, I know by the end of it, I'm going to be crawling to the showers because I'm in pain.
But it's worth it. You always feel like we talked about pain in this podcast.
Yes.
It's always worth it when you went through the pain and got to the other side.
Exactly. Like when I'm on the other side and like, you know, I feel better. I don't get as winded. I can lift up 20 pounds and not feel like I'm about to drop anything.
Okay.
I'm okay.
So you like the progress, or you like how Khloe Kardashian said this week, it's not about being thin, it's about the strength of her body that she's more into?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get back into like my Tomb Raider mode. Not saying I'm gonna go be shooting zombies or anything, but
That would have been a great costume, Tomb Raider.
I know. I think about it all the time. I'm like, next year I have to dress up for Halloween.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main goal, honestly, is just to have my strength back the way I had it at a time while I was in college. But you know, we're getting there.
You are. We're so proud of you on your walk. You're making all of us around here think more about what we eat and how active we are and how much water we drink. I love how you gave Jennifer, who's a mom of our newest grandchild, a big giant.
Of course.
I think it's marked with positive affirmations, a big giant water thing that has positive affirmations by each of the ounces that she has to drink throughout the day.
Listen,
because she's breastfeeding and everything. That's so beautiful of you to do that for her.
Let me tell you something, okay? When I first started this whole like, I got to get more water, I also had to buy myself that jug off of Amazon, and it has like a little tick mark for, I think it's like every 2 hours, and it has like affirmations on it, so I can slowly pace myself with the water. Now, mind you, doing that during work hours is very interesting because it's like I spent a lot of time from my desk to a meeting in the bathroom. Cycle. So people knew if I wasn't at my desk or I wasn't in a meeting, I was in the baño because I had to bring all this water. But I say it all to say, like, after a while, I got used to drinking that amount of water. I think it was like a half a gallon of water, I believe. The bottle was. Yeah, because you start at 8 a.m. until 8 p.m.
See,
drinking.
I don't know if I could do that because I run around so much between the different campuses that I, work on and teach on and in my life. I don't want to be caught in traffic and I got to use the restroom recently. I don't know if I can do it.
But see, that's why, because listen, when I used to be in the office, I would work a 9 to 5. So when I know I was about to leave, I had to cut that water off an hour before. So
yeah.
I was that 5 o'clock traffic, I'd be sitting there like, I gotta go. So I would cut it off an hour before, and then I wouldn't drink. Because I think, so it's like every 2 hours. So the 4 o'clock hour, I would skip at work, but then when I got home, I would drink up to 6 p.m. And
okay, so you got to be very conscious of when you're consuming. Got you.
But then too, right, obviously, because I was working out during that time too, if I went to the gym ahead of work, then I would take that water bottle with me to the gym. Mm-hmm. And even though it says to start at 8, I might start at 6. And depending on how much I'm drinking while I'm at the gym, that actually cuts a lot of like the water.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So the more you work out, you drink more water. Yeah. And it's like, nice. I think all of us are going to try to do that, especially after all the Halloween candy. I think water is going to become all of our friends.
I already know. Between Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, come January, I'll be back on my fast again. I'll be like,
you think Pastor Quick will put another Daniel's fast on the church?
I think he might.
Because we always have new things we can work on when we fast.
Especially because after the holiday season, I just don't want to eat anything heavy anyway. So I don't mind being on a Daniel fast. I don't know about the 40 days and 40 nights.
No, if you're going to do it, we got to do it with the restrictions of the corporate fast. And if he says 40 days and 40 nights again, then that's what it needs to be. And we do it all together. We all suffer together. We all grow together. We all go through the pain to become better on the other side.
See, this is very much I cry, you cry, we
cry together. That's right. It really is. Well, it's been a pleasure, as always, to do this podcast with you. And thank you so much for your contribution this evening. I look forward to seeing you on the other side next Sunday as we get into November. I can't believe we're going to be in the month of November next time we meet.
So excited.
Well, have a great night, Resa. And everyone else, have a great Halloween.
Thank you. Be safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I've been trying to forget, but you won't let me. Something in my brain wants you. I've been hanging by myself, asking for help, but nothing seems to work on you.
With everything crazy, you're still my source of peace. You filter out the lows,
You always
give me what I need.
feel like, oh yeah, you
pressure, I need
You're
acceptance.
the reason I'm going out my mind. I just can't stop thinking about you. You got me feeling some type of way.
Feeling more solid about who the man in the mirror is.
You make me wanna stay in all day.
With everything crazy, you still my
You're
source of
the
peace.